All right, let's move on to our game 3. This is actually a fun game because it's this Eagles going to the Saints. And boy, let me tell you, the biggest surprise in the NFL is the Saints and that Clint Kubiak offense. Now, with these quarterbacks, are they both top 10 starting options for you this week with Derek Carr and Jalen Hurts?
Derek Carr, by my rankings, is barely a top 10 quarterback at number 10. I want to move him higher. Brock Purdy has a great matchup. Jared Goff has a great matchup. So I have them just above Derek Carr. Feels wrong. Derek Carr's been on fire. I have to give him his flowers. Chris Olave was involved last week, but he could be more involved. We've seen Chris Olave be more involved and be more of an asset. Rashid Shaheed is the truth. We're going to talk about him here in a minute. I mean, that guy just absolutely continues season upon season to level up. He looks great. So yeah, if you want to tell me that Derek Carr is your, 7th or 6th ranked quarterback this week, I'm not going to argue with it. Derek Carr in the MVP conversation already early this season.
Yeah, it's been wild. Like I've hated Derek Carr my entire life because of how mediocre he is compared to his talents. Like the guy has all the arm strength in the world, he just never makes the plays. What Clint Kubiak is doing with these skill position players, he's unlocking that offense of Derek Carr. So thank you to Clint Kubiak to making Derek Carr a fun player in the NFL. It's been a decade since we've seen it. Interesting enough, as we jump into these running backs, I think it's a good time to pivot to this question. Would you trade Kamara for Gibbs in PPR league? Because I think it's a debate between the two of them, but Kamara is just well and above everybody else in fantasy based on his role, plus how more efficient he is. So would you trade that or you hold on Kamara?
That's really tough, right? You're talking about kind of a concentrated offense versus an offense with a ton of weapons. So we know Gibbs is going to get his. We know he's a top, certainly a top 8 to 10 running back every single week. So without fail. But where does AK fall now? He's probably a top 5 guy. So, I mean, Kubiak's scheming it up. Like I said, we're only throwing the ball to Olave and Shaheed outside of Kamara. And here's the New Orleans schedule. This week they play Philly, terrible against pass defense, and they've got injuries. Atlanta, Kansas City, Tampa has injuries. Denver, the Chargers, Carolina, Atlanta again. I mean, for the next, until their week 12 bye, at least 2/3 of their games are favorable, not great defenses. The passing game, the pass defense especially isn't great. So I hate this. No, keep Kamara.
Yeah, I think if you go by expected points, they're back-to-back. Gibbs is actually a little bit better. It's 20.3 in PPR. Yeah. Kamara has 19.9, but Kamara is massively outperforming what he's doing because he doesn't have David Montgomery. I think that's the biggest difference between the two of these guys. He's obviously Gibbs is supercharged version of Kamara, explosive abilities, but it's just you don't have all the weapons. In the Saints, it's a very concentrated, more target distribution with Shaheed, Olave. It's Kamara. You could talk yourself into Laporta. You can kind of do it with Montgomery with, on the other side with Detroit. So I'm fine keeping Kamara. I'm just going to ride the lightning and see how it goes. Yeah. I mean, yeah, if you can get Brees, Brees is basic. It's really hard to fade Brees, man. He's incredible. So sure. Yeah. It sounds like you really want Gibbs. And if you really want Gibbs, just do the Kamara for Gibbs deal.
I would do the Kamara
I have
deal.
Those guys. Yeah. I would just do that. Because I don't want to trade Brees personally. Brees is just truly special, right? You know what I'm saying? So I would do that. Flowers and Worthy, it's kind of back and forth. Worthy's going to be very up and down. That's just is what he is. He's not Rice. His role's a little bit more iffy. So if you really just want Gibbs and he's the guy you're targeting, I think you could pivot off of him with Kamara fairly easily, just based on how Kamara's doing. But overall, rest of the season, they're going to be back to back both top 5, top 3 running backs for me. So I don't have an issue with that deal.
Yeah, and don't worry about Worthy. We're going to have to wait and see a week or two what that looks like. But he's a back half of the year kind of guy anyway, just as a rookie wide receiver.
100%. So the where do you have Saquon ranked this week, and where do you have Kamara ranked running back for this game? I'm assuming they're both.
I have them super close. Neither is a top 5 back. I have Kamara at 7. We have some ridiculous. I may need to move Brees down a tick or two because I still have him at 5 against New England. Yeah. But yeah, I have AK at 7 and Barkley at 9. We just have the volume guy, Josh Jacobs, in between them. But the James Cook, Jordan Mason, who's my RB4 this week, those matchups are juicy as hell. So I have those guys a bit higher. But yeah, they're top 10 guys locked in. You're firing firing them up, they're your RB1 for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting because the Saints defense has been the best against running backs for 2 weeks. They're giving up less than 10 PPR points to the position. Like that's how good they've been. So it really comes a question of Saquon, whose usage he's RB1. Like it's Saquon versus the worst potential matchup. So we'll see how it goes and they shift it. I mean, obviously the Saints offense has really been so explosive, efficient. It's kind of forces teams to go away from the running backs. We'll see how it happens against this game. This game should be a lot of fireworks. It depends how desperate you are at quarterback. Like we talked about this yesterday. Like Rodgers is a mid-20s quarterback for us. Like he's a quarterback 24, I think, this week, if I remember my rankings. It's just I have concerns about the offense as a whole, where it seems it's Brees. Garrett Wilson's not getting going yet. He will. Overall, like I'm a little bit worried for him. So you could, but it's more of a super flex start for me. If you're starting 2 quarterbacks, then I would be okay starting Rodgers.
And if this is the Fletcher Cox, I understand the Rodgers hate. So just use that and as fuel and sit him on your bench while you watch CJ Stroud go off this week.
And then sack him 5 times. So for these wide receivers in this game, we have a lot of good wide receivers. AJ Brown looks like he's out again, so that sucks. But we have Chris Olave, we have Rashid Shaheed on one side. We had Devonta Smith not playing another for Eagles wide receiver. Like we're not doing it. Where do you have these guys ranked this week?
Yeah, Devonta Smith, love him. It's also a fast track in New Orleans in the Dome. That's nice for him. So it's really hard to fade him. The only issue, of course, is that New Orleans secondary, which has been better than really it should be, Lattimore, et cetera. So I like Devonta Smith, but if we're talking about if we're talking about New Orleans, I have to see. I have Smith at 16. Probably don't have Olave that high. I need to move him up. Olave's in the 20s. And I have Rashid Shaheed at 29. Let's go. So, I think both of those, you got to play all these guys. These guys are at least flex worthy, if not wide receiver 2s.
Yeah, the Eagles defense has been rough. Like we saw at the end of the game. There's serious speed coming down against that defense, and Rashid Shaheed is a game breaker. Like I have him as my wide receiver 24 this week. I was like him or Pittman. I'm like, why would I start Pittman over him? That's just insane. So yeah, like I have all 3 of these guys as top 24 wide receivers. Olave is the highest just based on his role, but you could do Devonta Smith. Like he's gonna eat in that offense.
Yep. Sorry, Olave at 14. Smith.
There we go. Now we're cooking, baby.
Yep.
Would you make this trade? Pittman and Moss for Brian Robinson and Amari Cooper. I probably would because both Pittman and Cooper have been 2 of the bigger letdowns. I'm a lot more confident that Cooper can reach his ceiling than I am Pittman personally. And Brian Robinson and Zach Moss, like that's kind of a change. So personally, I'm fine making that deal. What would you do this deal to take on Brian Robinson? I really just yeah.
It's really close. I like Brian Robinson. The problem I have with this deal is not the wide receiver side. You're getting probably the better option there. My problem is that you're going from what should be eventually an elite offense in Cincinnati and the clear-cut RB1 on that team. He's getting all the run. Chase Brown has been a non-factor. He's not even really on the field much for Cincinnati. So when they get Cook and Moss should as early as this week because they play each other. Is that right? This week, Cincinnati and Washington? I think that's right. And so Brian Robinson, he's looked great. He's a great back, but he's on an offense that will struggle at times. So it's close for me. I probably keep Moss.
Yeah, the one thing I like is Cliff Kingsbury will always support a running back, and that is once again that's coming to fruition. So we saw it with his years. Like I like Brian Robinson a little bit better than Zach Moss. I still like the offense is they struggled a lot in Cincinnati. So you're right, it needs to get better. If it does get better, that'll equal them out. So I would just whichever wide receiver you prefer is how I would go in that deal because they're similar bets. I still think Cooper's just a better wide receiver. He's been so abysmal. Like he's been unlucky and all that stuff. So, but yeah, you can go either way. It's just really what you depend on those guys.
I'll change my mind. You convinced me, Jesse.
Let's go.
Get me Rob.
Okay, this is a monumental trade. ASRB, Jalen Warren, Jerry Jeudy for ETN, Kyron, Jamison Williams. You lost Pacheco and has Connor. You also have Nico and Waddle. Yeah, I mean you got Nico in the bag. That's nice. I have a hard time giving up ASRB here.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about, right? Is Amon-Ra the clear-cut best player in this deal. Let's remove him. let's for a second, which is not true, just say him and Jamison Williams are an equal value. Let's just look at the rest of this trade. We have Jalen Warren and Jerry Jeudy for Etienne and Kyron. I mean, that's a clear-cut win for those backs. So really it depends on if you think Jamison Williams can keep up this level of production. I get it. I think he can. I think Sam Laporta is the odd man out, and it hurts. I would do it. I would do the deal.
Yeah, because like you said, you lost Pacheco, but you still have James Conner. James Conner's an RB1. Like you have confidence in James Conner. His role is awesome. He's going to be good.
Yeah.
It really comes down to like how you view Kyron rest of the season. You know me, I'm kind of like the man on ETN. I think he's fine, but I don't think he's going to be a difference maker for you. So yeah, Kyron's a massive upgrade over Jalen Warren. Like I don't want anything in the Steelers offense. Like it is what it is. And then the hard part is giving up Amon-Ra St. Brown, but you do have Nico. The thing with Waddle is what we talked about. Waddle's not as dependable as he's going to be the next month. He's got to do it himself. So yeah, like I get it. It's just I have a hard time giving up ASRB. The dude's like a top 5 player in fantasy. So anytime you're trading those guys away, you have to be really confident about the side you're getting. So if you're fully confident on that side, you can take it. I'm a little skeptical on Kyron and Etienne and JMO. Like his usage is awesome. He's like top 10 wide receiver. I just don't know how that's gonna last all season. Yeah. I mean, you dropped J.K. Dobbins. Oh no, dude, my boy. I'm so sorry. Oh, that's rough. We this happens. I cut I cut Kyron a week before last season in a dynasty league. It burned me. I was so pissed watching him just go nuclear against me. I was like, so yeah, sometimes we make bad decisions. And yeah, you can make a package out of. Yeah, you could do that. You could do that too. Like, there's ways to move around your team if you're worried about getting another running back, but. You have James Conner. I don't necessarily think you need another running back. You see another guy you can count on. So, like, if you want to go get a cheap running back, like we talk about with these like, dirt cheap RB2 production, like you could do that too and just, fight it through. But if you want, like, ETN, you want Kyron Williams, go get that deal. It's fine. Like, James Williams is awesome. Should be a play for you.
Who's dirt cheap right now is Devin Singletary. You can go out and get him. Who's pretty cheap and shouldn't be, probably Jerome Ford. You can go out and get him. You can even pay up a little bit. I wouldn't pay too much, but you can get Tony Pollard. The usage is there, and he might be someone that you can get for cheaper than you should.
Yeah, I think he's probably the cheapest, like, good running back you're going to find. Yeah. Like, I know the Titans offense kind of sucks, but, like, Pollard's role is really good. And as much as I like Tajay Spear, still dealing with the injury, and he hasn't, like, they say they want to involve him more, but, like, it's been 2 weeks. So, like, we'll see. Maybe it happens. Maybe it doesn't. Let's talk about wide receivers. I guess we did.
I think we're wide receivers. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about them. I mean, we wanted all those guys, start all those guys, all 3 of them. They're top 24 wide receivers, like we were saying. Tight ends. How are you treating the tight ends? Obviously, I think Dallas Goedert's the one you could start of all of these tight ends. It's still kind of iffy with Dallas Goedert. Without AJB, like, I think it helps Dallas Goedert out a lot. He becomes a lot more dependable. Where he's a top 12 tight end for me. I know Aaron hates Goddard, but like it kind of is what it is. On the flip side with the Saints, are you doing Taysom Hill? Are you doing Juwan Johnson? Are you doing any of these guys? Or are you just benching them?
No, one of them is going to score. I don't know who it is. So, no, I'm not doing any of them. Dallas Goedert, against my better judgment, is my tight end 9 this week. I just can't find anyone else to put above him. That's really the only issue. We said it early. We said it earlier this year. You wanted one of those top 6 guys. We were wrong because we should have included Brock Bowers in that mix. Yes. But you want one of those top 8 because Kittle has been good and we have the Debo injury already. So really one of those top 8 tight ends you want. Anyone outside the top 8, pass. Yeah, if you want to go the injured guys, Ferguson and Njoku are the 2 guys that can be top 5-ish tight ends for you. Njoku's going to eat. Like, he just got to be healthy. So I would try to go through those cheap tight ends if you're looking for that. Who's ever cheaper, just get one of those guys on your roster because tight end is a dumpster fire. So you might need like 3 or 4 of those guys to get through the season. Absolutely.
Let's go.